Well, hello there. My name is Dave Vila. I want to welcome you to this new edition of News and Views broadcast by Access LaPorte County on Public Access TV Channel 99. We are a weekly public opinion program addressing local, state, national topics and issues of interest to the Michigan City and surrounding areas. Opinions are the views and the responsibilities of those making comments and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of this program or its by co-producers. We will adhere to broadcast rules, but absolutely no one's First Amendment rights of freedom of speech or freedom of the press will be either muzzled nor denied. Any unauthorized use of the accounts, descriptions, and events of this program without the express written consent of us two, strictly prohibited. We hope you enjoy the program and the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I was in a doldrums. But I jumped into the shower and took a shower and got out at 2:45 this afternoon, and my wife was in the bedroom. She says, Dave, the cable is back on. The cable is back on. After basically 3 days of no cable, no telephone, no basic conveniences that I'm used to experiencing.
Yeah, we all are.
I was in a doldrum. I didn't know what to do. So after I found out that the cable was on, the first thing I did was I turned on the computer, and lo and behold, you know what I found? I found a comment from the governor's office, Governor Braun, and you know what he did today? He declared a statewide storm response emergency. Okay, well, the storm passed us 3 days ago, and all of this torrential downpour came down in northern Indiana. And it took him 3 days to realize that there may be a disaster area in northwest Indiana. If you listen to my program last week, I specifically pointed out that the governor basically is ignoring northwest Indiana.
And I take umbrage with that because I've got some numbers to show the differences in economic development in the eastern part of the state of Indiana. Go ahead.
That could well be, but northwest Indiana has been ignored for 3 days, and the governor finally woke up and he recognized that there is a problem. And his comments talking about his response to immediate needs. There was immediate needs in Lake County, immediate needs in Porter County, immediate needs in LaPorte County. And it takes 3 days for the governor to recognize the immediate needs. He was in Lake County to discuss the Bears acquisition property and putting the new Bears, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, he came into Lake County, after the storm went through. He saw it, he saw firsthand. He was in Lake County in an area that had, 117,000 people without electricity? And yet
Let's talk to NIPSCO about that and their plan when something goes wrong. Let's talk about the plans that AEP has and that NIPSCO has.
And I don't disagree. And on that point, NIPSCO had a substation here in Michigan City. And lo and behold, a while back they closed it down because they didn't see any need for it. And there was a possibility that NIPSCO was going to close down a substation in LaPorte. LaPorte had 17,000 people without electricity. There are people even now, today, this is Friday, living off of a generator, and their meters are toxic gases from the generators.
Yeah.
They're experiencing health problems. I would say that after 3 days lack of power, somebody in their right mind would recognize the fact that there was an emergency here in northwest Indiana, not 3 days after the fact. So, Governor, I'm suggesting that you take a new attitude as well.
I'm suggesting that what he is doing has been very good for the state of Indiana. His job is the state of Indiana. It's not one specific corner in northwest Indiana. Now, one of the problems we have is that NIPSCO is a very small electric utility compared to a lot of others, and as a result of that, they sometimes do not have the capabilities that some of the larger electric utilities in the state of Indiana have. So what's got to happen is we've got to get behind NIPSCO when they're in real trouble like they were with this situation, and we've got to figure out how do you help them out. Okay, now, I want to start with something a lot better than that. Notice my hat. That's because Indiana University's football schedule will start 3 weeks from tomorrow. Their opening game will be in Memorial Stadium at Indiana University.
Who are they playing?
What?
Who do they play?
They play a team.
Division II team?
Yeah.
Division II?
Yeah, I believe it's a Division II team. They always do that starting out. But on their schedule will be, first of all, Ohio State, and we will play the Ohio State game at Indiana. Michigan will be played at Michigan, and the last game of the season, Purdue, will be played at Indiana. Among the other schools, and I'll have to take a stronger look at the schedule to find out when we play Oregon and a couple of others, but we'll see what they can do in defending their national championship. They do have a new quarterback, came from Texas Tech, as I recall, and he's supposed to be very, very good. He had a high percentage in terms of passes completed, so we will see how they do. On the other hand, what I did in this week off was take a look at a couple of areas. Number one, I wanted to take a look at the regional planning commissions. They have a lot to do with economic development and with transportation. Now, when you talk about transportation, it just not only means the highways and automobiles and trucks, it also is rail and other sorts of transportation. Now, by the way, I understand that not only were we having problems with Northwest Indiana, the Port of Indiana shut down. Ports, I spent 5 years in the Navy, ports have their own methodology of staying open. How does a federal situation like the Port of Indiana wind up being shut down in a place like this? Wait a minute, not proper planning. We can give you the answer for that. We've got to start recognizing that there has been a shift in the situation with weather. Weather had a lot to do with NIPSCO's particular problem right now, because weather came through with a high turbulence situation about a year ago and knocked out one of their major situations in developing or generating energy, which was a greenfield that they had and were building on down across from Wheatfield, Indiana. And a tornado came through, knocked down all of their solar panels, knocked out their windmills, and they still haven't been able to get those replaced. Now,
you're jumping too far ahead of yourself, Bob. Explain what the Regional Planning Commission is.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
I plan to do that, but I wanted to make some points ahead of time so people will be thinking about it as I go through this. Regional planning commissions, and there are two of them that could affect us. One is the one that is for Lake County, Porter County, and LaPorte County. It's NIRPC. It's Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. In terms of servicing, the other one is what's known as MACOG, the Michiana Area Council of Governments. They take whatever, or they are supposed to take whatever funds are being appropriated through either the federal government, the state government, or on a local basis, and allocating those across their territory. The territory for NIRPC, Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, is 3 counties. It's Lake County, LaPorte County, and Porter County. I thought it had 2 more counties in there, and maybe it did 20 years ago, but they're not there now. It's just 3 counties in NIRPC. Now, the other one that we do not belong to, but could have a significant effect on us, is what's known as MACOG. And MACOG stands for Michiana Area Council of Governments. MACOG includes St. Joe County, Elkhart County, Marshall County, and Kosciuszko County. I'm going to throw out a few numbers here so people will get some idea of why this becomes so important. But one of the reasons it becomes important is because these regional councils have a lot of priorities given to them in transportation areas. Again, transportation areas would include automobile, truck, but in addition to that, rail, And so, if we get our rail lines right, if we get our highways right, we're going to be, I think, in a much better position than we are right now in terms of economic development. But just to throw out some numbers, Lake County's population, 504,000 plus. And I'm going to develop other numbers on this also, but their gross domestic product, $31.2 billion. Porter County, their population, 176,000, little over that actually, and their GDP, gross domestic product, $9.8 billion. LaPorte County, population, now this is without the 2 prisons. Remember, we talk about the prison in Michigan City, about 2,500 people, but the prison in Westville also has about 6,000. So you put it together, we're roughly about 8,500. The LaPorte County population without the 2 prisons, 111,294. So let's just round it off at 112,000. Our gross domestic product, $5.7 billion. Certainly only about half of what we get out of Porter County, and about significantly less, I'll just put it that way, of what comes out of Lake County. Now, when we start to do comparisons, Maycog, St. Joseph County, population 272,000, gross domestic product $19.5 billion. Elkhart County, which is the second one in Maycog, population 209,000, gross domestic product $20.6 billion. Marshall County, the smallest one among all these counties, population 46,000, it's 599, so just round it off at 46,600. Gross domestic product, $2.4 billion. Kosciuszko County, population 80,240 people. Gross domestic product, $7.8 billion. Now, let's compare Kosciuszko County to LaPorte County, and I did this and I was surprised, to say the least. Again, Kosciuszko County, population 80,240, GDP $7.8 billion. LaPorte County, 111,294, gross domestic product $5.7 billion, which is saying that Kosciuszko County has $2 billion, just slightly over $2 billion more in gross domestic product to feed 30,000 less people. That is where our disparaging is coming from.
Yeah.
This has got to cease. We have got to get our economic development people at the Michigan City, LaPorte, and LaPorte County out there and doing a lot more than what they're doing right now in order to attract the kinds of industry that pay the kinds of wages that we need paid. Now, one of the economic development problems that you're going to find in Michigan City and LaPorte County is our north-south highway system. We've got a good system in terms of east and west. We've got the toll road, we've got 20, we've got 30 south of just right around Wanata, and we also have I-94, although it goes up to Michigan, it stays very close to the state line and goes all the way to Detroit. Good situation in terms of east and west. North and south, we don't really have much. Now, in Lake County, they have Highway 41, which is 4-lane all the way south. They have Interstate 65. And what we want to do is somehow be able to connect up with Interstate 65. That's a long ways down. We're talking about a 90-mile situation with US 421 and then what becomes Highway 43 later on. But we've got to get this corrected. And we got to start by getting US 421 4-lane all the way to US 30, which would still be in LaPorte County. And we've got to have somebody that will push that. Right now, when you look at us in terms of NRPC, Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, remember they've got a lot to do with transportation. Highways is a big part of this. When they look at Lake County, they're going to say, that's where the population is, that's where the money is. They got the 45 million plus in order to extend the Monon Corridor, I think it's been renamed to the Monon Corridor, from Hammond down to southern Lake County. And this will be a positive for Lake County in terms of the passenger service, but maybe a bigger positive in terms of the freight service. Nobody's thought about that. Because off of that extension, you can draw spurs, rail spurs. And with that, you can start to bring in the kinds of industry that will pay the kinds of salaries that we're looking for, i.e. industries that start with raw materials, need sometimes freight in order to bring them in. They're looking at fairly low value and high density like steel and some of the other raw materials that they deal with, but they're turning out high density, high value materials, which they also need to ship by either barge or by rail freight. We in LaPorte County need to get 421 at least 4-lane all the way to US 30. And there's a big impediment there, and it's a railroad bridge that's been there probably since the Depression.
And Otis, yeah.
There is a little question that comes along. Most of the people in LaPorte County know the answer to this. It's a minutia type question, but how do you fix the problem when a truck gets stuck under this bridge?
Deflate the tires.
You deflate the tires. That's the way to get them out. Now, it doesn't do much for the wheels on the truck, and it certainly doesn't do much for the Highway 421 when you do that, because you got steel on these highways now. But that's just one of the problems that needs to be fixed. In addition to that, I've got a number of other statistics, but let me make the one that I looked at, and probably is a little bit unfair, but I want to make one more comparison. Kosciuszko County, which basically is a rural county, population 80,240, gross domestic product 7.8 billion. Now that is coming out of a lot of the situations that has been pushed by the Republican administrations, and they have got the medical field heavily involved. This is Warsaw, has a big contingent from Biomet and from Stryker, which are two big pharmaceutical, well, they're not pharmaceutical, they're biomedical companies. There's also one more. But if you go to our hospital, you're going to find that there's a lot of different materials in there built by Stryker. Again, population Kosciuszko County 80,000, population LaPorte County 111,000. But here's where we change. Gross domestic product, Kosciuszko County 7.8 billion. Gross domestic product, LaPorte County 5.7 billion. They have 30,000 less people to feed on 2 billion more in terms of gross domestic product than we have.
One of the comments that you made about the 421 and the Otis Bridge.
Yeah. Well, don't blame the bridge on Otis, but go right ahead.
Oh, well.
It's close to Otis.
It's close to Otis. LaPorte County, the LaPorte County Road and Bridge Fund, would that construed, or would a railroad train bridge factor into the LaPorte County Road and Bridge Fund?
Sure. Yeah, but that's...
I mean, could it be a county issue?
Let me go ahead. Yes, it would, because remember, we are under NERC now. That would go through NERC. They take and allocate federal funds, state funds, and local funds. You're talking about a LaPorte County fund. That would be a local fund. The answer is yes.
And so what I'm leading up to is maybe the anchor that's dragging their feet is the LaPorte County County Commission for not utilizing their funding mechanism to the best of their ability. Maybe the county needs to shape up a little bit and to improve 421 to a 4-lane. Going
they have
south,
got to start putting pressure.
That's correct. So,
yeah, we've got to start putting pressure.
So listening to the county commissioners' meetings and so on, maybe some of the issues that they may address could be a new railroad bridge.
Yeah.
If the funding mechanism is in place.
Well, yeah, a new railroad bridge, or if it takes this just to get 421 4-lane, a bypass around the bridge. Now, I would think that it would be cheaper and better in the long run to put a new bridge in there. But you could do one. But you could do one or the other. Put a bypass around a bridge.
But you're talking.
But you want the 4 lanes.
Yeah,
You got to get the 4 lanes.
Your comments all revolve around economic development.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't
I was
this,
intending it to.
That is correct. So wouldn't this bridge be a railroad bridge be a factor in some consideration to our county planners?
Yeah, it should be.
You know, what are they doing? What are you guys doing out there?
Well, we haven't been able, for whatever reason or reasons, to attract the kind of companies that they have been able to attract. I will say this, in Lake County, but that's because of the population and the number of people that they have to go to work, or the types of businesses, the types of companies that they've been able to attract in northeastern Indiana. And I'm talking about Warsaw, Fort Wayne, that area. Now, the interesting thing about Warsaw, which is this county seat of Kosciuszko County, is they don't have AEP. They actually have, and I think they're the 2 largest utilities. They have a rural electric cooperative, and they have NIPSCO for their electric system. So it's not necessarily rates, but I don't know the difference between the rates in Kosciuszko County and the rates in LaPorte County. That's one of the things that would have to be studied.
But going back to Bob's thought process, it makes sense. Again, we discussed widening 421, and we discussed the bridge, but it never dawned on me to say, hey, maybe it's the county is dragging their feet in regards to utilization of the funds that they have available to them.
And the importance is so much for LaPorte County because we just don't have, other than US 30, and that's down around Wanata, we don't have north-south, oh, no, I'm sorry about that. US 30 is east-west. We don't have any north-south roads that are 4-lane that can get the job done that heavy freight in terms of trucks needs to be done.
And you look at the location of the what I would call the Otis Bridge in relationship to Indiana Tollway. It's not far away, and again, it could open up a vast amount of land if you could utilize truck traffic to go on this north-south approach. It makes sense what Bob is saying, you know. But again.
Well, we're going to bring in some more figures just to keep you energized.
No, but again, economic development is what it's all about. And again, I've voiced my opinion of lack of economic development in our community for a long time. Well, but that's a good idea, Bob.
It's really hurting our people.
Yes, it is.
Now, all right, did the analysis that I use be absolutely accurate if I was doing this as a study for a college class on a master's degree or a PhD? I would have gone a lot farther. What we have going in LaPorte County, but it's expensive to the people that do it, is commuting. We have a lot of people that are commuting into the better paying areas. Lake County, Porter County, Chicago, and even Berrien County north of here. But you got to have a better car. You basically for the wintertime better have an all-wheel drive or a 4-wheel drive, or if you're going to commute long enough, you're going to be in real trouble because you're going to get some bad days and some bad nights, and those are expensive. But in life, if you make the money, and we're talking about salaries probably $30 to $35 an hour, and that will afford you the ability to buy a decent car with an all-wheel drive, maybe a used car that's got 25,000 miles, 2 years old, 2.5 years old. Maybe you can find a repossession where, you know, the bank wants to get rid of it, or the savings and loan wants to get rid of it. But you're going to need a good car to commute. I know I went through this for 40 years, maybe 50. And those are expensive, and they're getting more expensive.
Now going back to Bob's idea, again, if we put a new train bridge on replacing the old Otis Bridge, that's 421 going south. You go so far, you can pick up Highway 2 that will bypass LaPorte, which could alleviate some of the traffic problems that LaPorte has with downtown LaPorte, just by Highway 2, 18th Street, and around Boyd Boulevard, and they could circumvent the entire town of LaPorte.
Yeah.
And maybe Mayor Germany's concept, maybe he can jump on this bridge deal that could help alleviate the traffic problem he has in LaPorte by putting in a railroad bridge on 421.
Now,
everybody would benefit.
The question would become, do you want to try to go through this with NERC, or do you want to try to go through this with MACOG? Because you're going to have to go through one of the planning commissions. So it would be, I think, the county commissioners that would have the say on whether we should shift, and we'd obviously have to talk to a lot of people at MACOG, whether we should shift from NERC to MACOG.
Yeah, but you already said...
Now, remember, that part of LaPorte County is under AEP, American Electric Power. The eastern part is under, and certainly the central eastern part is under AEP. So for an electric utility, we wouldn't be that far out if we didn't have that situation. Go ahead.
No, going back with, again, occasionally the mayor may watch our show, maybe, maybe not, but in case consideration for this bypass of LaPorte could be right there on 421, and everybody's going to benefit. But again, he's going to have to get behind it because he's got the muscle to make something happen versus what we've got up here. We don't get too much done.
Well, I was also, and I got some other thoughts in terms of politics, but this is for both Democrats and Republicans in the state legislature next year. We're talking 2027. I am told that there will be a major attempt to get customer individual choice for utilities.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I really didn't realize this, but it's being pushed by 4 different major corporations, all of whom have a major stake of over $1 billion in Indiana. The major corporations that I know of are, first of all, the battery plant in New Carlisle, whoever owns it, it's been sold a couple times. Stellantis, major in Kokomo, Indiana. Toyota, major in southern Indiana. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. 10 years ago, northern Indiana had their opportunity to get Toyota. They flunked, and we'll tell you why. And then there's a Japanese company that's also in on this. But they're pushing it, but for corporations, because they use an awful lot of energy. They'd like to be able to negotiate rates between AEP, NIPSCO, and some of the other, like Duke Energy, that are in Indiana. And I got a feeling this is going to go through, but I also got a feeling that it's going to go through from customers. Now, one of the reasons I say that, I didn't realize this, I talked to Tony, he didn't realize it. AEP has a situation where they will allow customers, individual customers, small businesses, to go to another utility. They have a list of the utilities that they will allow them to go to. You're not hung up. If you don't want to be under AEP, you can get another utility. But I got to get the list of the other utilities that they will. That's right now. That's before anything goes through the legislature. But we've got a fall election coming up. You want to take a look at, I think we've got one county commissioner seat up, at what the county commissioners and both would-be county commissioners in both parties are saying, how they feel about NERC and MACOG, and why. We also have next year a mayoralty election and a city council election. Now this is where people in primaries, now this is non-political here from Republican and Democrat, but in primaries start to ask these people how they stand in terms of the second, third, and fourth ward, which you've talked about a lot. Ask them where they stand on the sanitation department's separation of sewers in those 3 wards, the people that are running for the ward council positions, and also the people that are running for council at large and where they stand on separation of sewers, which apparently has not been accomplished to the rate that I thought it was in the second, third, and fourth wards. This is also another issue that you can campaign on in the mayoralty election and in the council election. What are you going to do about the situation in Michigan City and getting the county commissioners of LaPorte County to put us into a better situation to get 421 4-lane all the way to US 30.
Could you expand a little bit about the congressional districts that Michigan City is included upon?
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit to the public. I mean,
My information goes back quite a few years. I got it when Marco Rubio was running for president. While I was on his campaign thing, and so as a result of that, I had to take around a petition, and I had to get petitions signed for 2 congressional districts, District 1 and District 2. District 1 is Lake County, Porter County, and Michigan City. It's also, I think,
how much of Michigan City?
all of Michigan City, Civil City. Now, I don't think I'm talking Long Beach, Potawatomi Park, and those, but it's all of Michigan City.
All of Michigan City.
Civil City.
Is in District 1.
Is in District 1. Now, that's Frank Mervin's district. The rest of LaPorte County is in District 2, which includes St. Joe County, Elkhart County, Kosciuszko County, Marshall County, and the political situation, as I see it, is I don't think the Republicans or the Democrats want to change this for a couple of reasons. First of all, for the Democrats, they've added some votes in District 1, which I think they're going to need. I also think they're going to need it because we have not elected a Republican to be the congressional representative from District 1 since 1928. Basically, you're talking 100 years. That has been a solid Democrat seat. By putting Michigan City in there right now, all you're doing is making it a little more solid for the Democrats, which I think they like. If you put it over into District 2, then this is a solid Republican district. That takes away from their thought process on how easy it is to win in the 2nd congressional district for the Republicans. Makes it a little bit harder. They have to work a little bit harder. But also gives the Republicans a chance to win, or a better chance to win, in District 1. I think the Democrats like it the way it is. I think at the upper leadership. I think the Republicans at the upper leadership like it the way it is. So I'd be shocked if we got changed.
Well, what I'm leading up to is since Michigan City is in the 1st congressional district, I think we have presented a very sound case for the storm sewer, separation storm sewer, water sewer in the city of Michigan City, that we could maybe obtain some federal funding.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I also think we've got to be more aggressive in going after funding from various foundations. By that I mean corporate foundations. I would be looking at Alphabet, which is Google, in terms of their foundations. I'd be looking at Hitachi in terms of their foundation.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at federal funds.
I know you are.
Yeah, federal funds,
but you got to look at both, I think.
Yeah, and maybe an aggressive mayor could take this concept and expand on it, and to get a hold of this Mervan and say, hey, it's been identified as a problem here in the city of Michigan City, and it's bigger than the sanitary district could handle.
Yeah.
And we need the help of the federal people to come in and resolve this matter that's been ignored for the last 50 years.
And I think you'd find that the EPA would be very much behind that.
Well, they're number 2, yeah.
Because they are pushing very hard. Both Republican and Democrat administrations have pushed very hard on sewer separations.
You are right. Yeah, you are right.
Not only because of it contaminates the basements, it creates a medical situation.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of contamination that you can get when those basements get flooded. So as a result of that, I think you'd find the EPA would.
Yeah, one of these. The last 3 days, I couldn't sit at home, so I got in the car and drove around the Village Green area.
His wife couldn't stand him, is what he said.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but you know what I seen in Michigan City, other than fallen trees and down wire lines, I seen all of these waterproofing services driving their big trucks into the Village Green area, and you see them out there with all these white buckets, and they want to dewater your basement. Well, again, that individual who brings in this service to come in and to water his or her basement in a high water table isn't going to accomplish too much to resolve drying out her basement.
Well, that's where
and maybe, again, and maybe
well, the
this is
people
a
in Village
federal...
Green are going to have to get on their council person
That is correct.
and find out who's running.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
in the next election.
Again, the issue is it's just bigger than me blowing hot air because it affects the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Ward residents. That's basically half of Michigan City almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, not in population, but...
Well, not in in landmass.
Yeah, yeah.
In landmass. And so just maybe we're what we brought up here may be on a forefront of a potential resolution to the water problems that exist in the southwest corner of the city of Michigan City. But it takes somebody to show some initiative legislatively as well as...
or somebody who'd like to get elected. It's a great issue.
Definitely. Gee, Bob, I wonder what you're implying. I'm just saying, it's been an issue it's been a thorn in my foot for the last 50 years, but the city put more emphasis on rehabilitating a little bitty area on Woodland Ave that used to be an old substation,
Yeah.
They want to rehabilitate that. They want to spend, I guess it's federal money, I heard this on the radio, want to spend federal money to rehabilitate that little bitty concrete block corner lot and ignore the residents of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Ward as far as the water problem is concerned. But if you go into the basement of that little block building, you'll see water, standing water in that basement. I mean, it just, the mindset, the thought process, again, I have very limited support for the mindset around this town. I'm sorry, that's the way it is, and I am for economic development. Bob?
Yeah, well, I'm taking a look at a couple of other things. The situation in terms of NIPSCO with going in and asking for rate increases. First of all, they've asked, I believe, for $38 million. That's because they have to take 2 coal-fired generators. They have to take them out of being retired and put them back into service. Now, one of those was just about totally retired. Today, most people don't want coal-fired generators. They want either nuclear or something else. But nuclear is really the answer. But small nuclear stations, not the big station like you see in Bridgman, which can cover vast areas, but smaller ones for a designated area. They're going to have to look at that, and I think they're going to have to go down to Wheatfield, and instead of replacing all these solar panels and all these windmills, let's see if we can't replace it from 2 or 3 small nuclear type stations and cover a lot more. But again, they're pulling these coal-fired generating stations back into service because what's known as the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has told them they have to because they can't cover their service area without these being in production and without that green field or those green sites that they had that got torn up in a tornado. So they're going to spend $38 million at least to bring these back into service, and that'll get spread over all of us that are NIPSCO patrons. And this is another reason why you need to get more nuclear involved. You need to stay out of, I think, for large situations. Now, small situations, a business, a homeowner, a farmer, they can get into the solar business and they can make a little money doing it by giving their excess energy back into the NIPSCO system or back into the AEP system. But for the very large companies, this NIPSCO is just not something that they want to be involved with because they don't think, in my opinion, that NATO has the capabilities, that NIPSCO has the capabilities of covering them the way they should. Your thoughts?
Well, I did a little bit of research. This goes back into the 80s when I wanted to relight the city of Michigan City with high-pressure sodium street lights. And high-pressure sodium the state was subsidizing the concept around the Indiana State Prison. It was amber-colored streetlights. So the state was involved, and the prison system was involved in specific areas of northwest Indiana. And the state recognized the problem, recognized a potential savings on these streetlights for the prison area and different areas here in northwest Indiana on the highways, but yet NIPSCO, because of their rate structure then and their current rate structure, wasn't conducive to save electricity on these. They didn't want to save
They're losing money. They're not saving money. Go right ahead.
My effort was to show NIPSCO that they could save money. But yet NIPSCO turned their back on me in the 4 years that I badgered them in regards to high-pressure sodium streetlights. And so I did a little research, dug up some old paperwork that I printed out back in the 80s, and I got Cliff Arnold was the mayor at the time, and my mom in LaPorte sent a letter to Cliff Arnold complaining about the fact that we weren't getting any results in high-pressure sodium streetlights. And Cliff then responded to my mom, who then gave me the letter that basically said a fellow by the name of Mike Pryor, who was president of NIPSCO at the time, didn't want to deal with me because of my belligerent attitude. Well, that was back in the 80s. That same belligerent attitude is an attitude today that still will support the concept that the NIPSCO rate structure is roughly 65% higher on streetlights today as it was in the 80s. They never changed. They never want to adapt to a better way of life. And I'm just saying that they continue to raise your rates, and like Bob was saying, it's a federal mandate to reopen Wheatfield and so on. It's a federal mandate, but see, they don't want to change. They don't want to adapt. They are conducive to their way of life, and they don't want to change. So maybe I got to salute.
They're not the only people, by the way, around here that are in that position.
But just maybe, if they don't want to change, why don't they just get the hell out of business? Because look at the amount of people that are out of utilities in Lake County and Porter County and LaPorte County and the city of LaPorte and so on. Again, downsizing. What does it produce? What we've experienced in these last 3 days, and so now the mayor or the governor declares an emergency 3 days after the fact because this organization under the umbrella of NIPSCO doesn't have enough supervisors or enough trucks to drive the streets to fix the problem. They had to bring in an additional 1,000 electrical workers from outside of the area. Just maybe their organization, the boss of NIPSCO, he makes what, $14-15 million a year?
Now, I have no idea, but I'm going to tell you it's probably 10. But I'll.
Yeah, well, all right, so 10. Yeah. Don't you think that they could have invested some of that $10 million in trucks and in high lifts and everything else, and employ local people? Don't you think that that's why you're here, or is it why you're here to continue to extract from the community? NIPSCO has taken an attitude.
Well, I'm going to give you another thought on that. And one of the companies that I mentioned that's investing heavily in the state of Indiana is Toyota. Toyota 10 years ago looked over northern Indiana, specifically the Maycog area and the NERPC area, which would be Lake County, Porter County, LaPorte County, St. Joe County, Elkhart County, because we had the people that they needed in terms of hiring them for their automotive assemblies and this type of thing. And after about 6 months, they decided that they would not invest in northern Indiana. They actually, after an interview, I think it was with the South Bend Tribune, came out and told us the reason. And the reason went like this. We look at your educational system in the vein of who are we going to be able to hire 10 years from now to work with the technology that will be in place 10 years from now. It's now 10 years later. Toyota is investing millions in southern Indiana because obviously they have found places where the high school graduates are coming out. with the capabilities math-wise and reading-wise to be able to do the kinds of work that Toyota was talking about 10 years ago. The other thing we need to start doing is looking at our, and I think some of the schools are, New Prairie I think is one of them, but Michigan City and LaPorte have got to start looking at, and maybe some of the southern Tri-County area, Michigan City and LaPorte schools have got to start looking at what will be necessary for the students they're now graduating to be able to do in terms of reading and math 10 years from now. Keep in mind that reading, we used to think of it when I was in high school as, okay, if you can read the safety signs, if you can read instructions, you're good. All you need is a high school diploma. You can go to the military and get a GED, get an honorable discharge, and you can get hired in the mills, no problem. That's not true anymore. In fact, I'm told that at least one of the mills requires a 2-year college. We've got to make sure that our high schools are working to at least go to these companies, find out what they think they're going to need 10 years from now, and being able to put into their curriculum the kinds of studies that at least 75% of their graduates, and Tony would be all over me because he'd be telling me it has to be 100%. I don't think we're going to get there, but I think with the right situation, summer school and classes after school, and the right teachers working on reading capabilities, math capabilities, we could, by the time they get to the 12th grade, have our students, at least 75% of them, operating at a 12th grade reading level and a 12th grade math level.
And to expand on what Bob just said, Indiana law 36.725.8 specifically says it has rules regarding communication and the annual report. This annual report from the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission authorizes a 15% allocation to economic training throughout the school system, if they request it. The school city, this comes from Redevelopment Commission, their funds, 15% of that is authorized to be utilized for educational and training purposes. That's not being done. Another thing that's not being done is a...
let me just intervene a little bit. When you talk about education and training, they need to start to go to companies like we have here, Hitachi, GAF, General Aniline Film, and companies that are located in Michigan, are located in Porter County, are located in Lake County, and find out what their needs are. Where do they think we have to be on an educational basis 10 years from now? What are the classes we have to input in reading and in math to get to that 10-year period? That's what Toyota told them. They don't have this. They were talking to us, they were talking to LaPorte, they were talking to the South Bend school system. And they did it in public. I couldn't believe it, but they did it in public.
I'm just saying that monies are available to the school system through the Redevelopment Commission to obtain funds for educational purposes, and the school city is not taking advantage of that opportunity. The school board, I did a little research on how much money the Redevelopment Commission has granted through Gateway to pay for the educational system. And according to Gateway's records, the City of Michigan City's Redevelopment Commission has not authorized no money whatsoever to the Michigan City area schools. They've authorized funds through Kevin McGuire, through his technology, but they have not authorized any funds whatsoever for towards the Michigan City's development of future jobs and so on. They haven't taken advantage of it. They haven't done their homework. And what they're trying to do in this November election is request a referendum vote. They're trying to take the easy way out rather than taking advantage of what's available to them.
Well, first of all, the Redevelopment Commission I'm not upset with them over this, because if they're going to give them the money, then they have to make sure that the school establishes the standards. They've talked about all the nice things they're going to do with this money and how they're going to refurbish some of these schools and that type of thing. What they haven't done is talk about the learning situation. How much are these students going to get on a grade-by-grade level? And when they fall behind, will we have summer classes that are mandatory? Will we have classes after school that are mandatory in teaching these kids to read and in teaching these kids to do math? And until they do that, I don't think we're going anywhere. And some of these kids are coming in so far behind that they're going to have extra time. It would be great if they just did a whole summer school and had school year round. I would not be opposed to that, and I'd be willing to pay for it. But I don't think we need upgrades in these schools. Maybe we need some technology upgrades, but new chairs, new carpeting and all this before we start emphasizing the learning process and getting these kids up to the standard that they should be at in the grade that they're at.
And state law does not have an age limitation to instill an educational program in reading and industrial growth and how to use a hammer and so on. Some of the monies could be redirected from the Redevelopment Commission to initiate a reading program that is conducive to the STEM program, which will eventually carry on down the road to teach these kids basic vowels, basic linguistics, that will enable these kids to then understand when they get to providing a job, they may understand what language is all about. There could be a way to
and be able to read directions and comprehend the meaning.
That is correct.
Sometimes in directions, people use verbiage that you're not used to. You have to be able to read it and comprehend what is being said so that you can actually follow those directions.
And so I questioned Google. I said, can a citizen of a community file administrative complaint to Department of Governmental Finance overseeing property tax compliance and so on? The answer is yes, a citizen can file an administrative complaint with the Department of Local Government Finance regarding tax increment financing, but the DLGF's jurisdiction is strictly limited to statutory property tax compliance with data. There is no specified TIF citizen lawsuit. In other words, I as an individual cannot file. When I find something wrong, I cannot file a lawsuit with the DLGF. The school city, when they made their request for the funds and they were turned down, there is a next step that they could have taken, but they didn't take it.
That's the second next step. The first step is you got to get a couple of members of the school board to go down to the Redevelopment Commission and say, hey, how about helping us out?
You're right. That's all. Just maybe those other members on the school board, maybe they failed to pass the third grade reading test and the third grade comprehension test, and they're just sitting there just to take up space and not to study to become an astronaut, just specifically taking up space on the school board. Maybe they also need to be replaced. I mean,
these are things that you can look for in the fall election, November. We've got about 3 months, and we're going to have an election, and we're going to have a school board election. And you've got to start looking at what these candidates are, why are they running? What is their goal or goals when they're running? And they've got to start telling us that, and they have to tell us how they're going to raise these academic standards, because we're going to be right where we were 10 years ago when Toyota said, we can't come here because 10 years from now, we will not be able to hire the types of people that we will need to run our business. And they're investing billions. I mean, they were not talking about 10 or 15 people. They're hiring hundreds of people down there.
Going back to the congressional districts of Lake Porter and Michigan City, the area that encompasses the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th wards of Michigan City are not included in a specific TIF district. That's a good portion of land that is not, but there's revenues generated from that area, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Ward, to provide revenue on the east side of town and subsidize the east side TIF district. I'm just saying that a good enough case could be made. I think we've made that case here that...
Well, the redevelopment commission would have to specify this is for academic reasons. You have got to work on this. But yeah.
Yeah, but my question is, why aren't they doing it?
I have no idea.
See?
That's up to the redevelopment.
Oh, yeah, three, my goodness, 3 minutes? Wow. I think we accomplished. I really enjoyed that railroad bridge concept.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to the
Well,
west.
then we wouldn't have the minutia question about what do you do when a truck gets stuck there.
That's yeah. But again, I can see all of that vacant land to the west side of 421.
Yeah.
Could be open for economic development.
Yeah.
It would open, and so the question is, how do you get the money to build a new railroad bridge? That's not my
Well,
my purview.
You'd have to go through the process. In this case, it would be NERC. They have the allocations from federal, state, and local funds. And when I say local, that includes county and city. And would they allocate the funds to do that? We'd have to get, Tony can talk more about the process than I can, but you'd have to get estimates. I'm thinking it's probably going to be $1 million.
What about this Reardon fella? He's the county planner?
Yeah.
He's
he's the county economic development.
Economic development. Again, maybe this could be an issue that would open up the west side of...
Well, the Michigan City Council, or the people that work for the mayor's administration, are going to have to start to go into the county commissioners and talk about that, and with the county economic development system. Because we're just getting way too far behind in LaPorte County.
We are. And again...
we're making up for it by people commuting, and I was one of those. But it's better if you can do this within your own system.
We're down to the last minute, Bob. Again, you and I, we're only going to be here so long in our the 83 year, what, 84?
I'm 86.
86. Again, somebody has to take this ball and run with it to make improvements in the community here in Northwest Indiana and the city of Michigan City. I want to thank everybody for watching. Your input as to improvements and criticism of the show is greatly appreciated. Please contact Show's co-producers Bob Pollock, Dave Bila, or Tony Hendricks with your comments. You can email Bob at skrpollock@gmail.com, Dave at djbila1@hotmail.com, or Tony at emailagm@yahoo.com. Or you may direct your ideas for any future shows to our one and only staff writer, Sarah Bellum. The showing of our program will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m., also Monday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. on Channel 99. You may also watch our rebroadcast of our show on 99 Navigate News and Views on YouTube. Again, we have some problems here in Michigan City. We may be a week or so a little bit later than normal on our presentations due to factors beyond our control. I want to thank everybody for watching, and make it a good day.